What if a warning from heaven had already been set to awaken all of humanity? This question may sound distant, almost like a symbolic story from times past. But what if I told you that this sign may be closer than we imagine? In the book of Revelation, the trumpets sound as markers of transformation and warning. Each sound carries with it a profound call. And when we speak of the fourth trumpet, we speak of something that not only echoes in the heavens, but reverberates directly in the human heart. Imagine for a moment darkness taking over the sun, moon, and stars. Imagine an entire world stopping before a sign that no one can ignore. What would you feel if you saw this happening before your eyes? Fear, hope, regret, or perhaps the sense that something greater has finally revealed itself? This mystery of the fourth trumpet is not just a symbol lost in the pages of the Bible. It is connected to a sequence of spiritual warnings that many believe are already being fulfilled in our day. Among these warnings, one of the most striking comes from the apparitions of Medjugorje. Have you heard of them? They are messages attributed to Mother Mary, which deeply touch millions of people around the world, but which also hold secrets yet to be revealed. 7 messages, to be precise, that remain hidden, waiting for the right moment to come to light. And some claim that one of these messages is directly related to the fourth trumpet, as if it were the key to understanding one of the most disturbing mysteries of the apocalypse. Perhaps you felt, at some point, that the world is experiencing strange and inexplicable signs. The increase in natural disasters, global instability, the feeling that we're increasingly on the verge of something decisive. Is it a coincidence, or have the signs already begun to sound, albeit silently? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you. This isn't just a video about prophecies or ancient symbols. It's an invitation to look at the present with spiritual eyes and realize that messages are being sent, even if many still can't hear them. Think with me. Why does the Bible describe trumpet blasts so powerful that they shake not only the earth but heaven itself? Why does Mary, in so many apparitions, insist on speaking of conversion, prayer, and preparation? There is clearly an invisible thread connecting these two scenarios, and it is precisely this thread that can help us understand the warning that will surprise the world. When Mother Mary speaks in Medjugorje, it is not just to a small group, but to all humanity. Her words are a call, an echo that transcends borders and generations, and aligns with the signs already described in Scripture. And here's the question we can't ignore. If this warning really is about to happen, how will each of us react? Will we be prepared to listen, understand, and act? Or will we be caught off guard, like someone waking up in the middle of a night, suddenly plunged into darkness? Have you ever felt like something big was about to happen, even though you couldn't explain it? This feeling that the invisible is about to become visible may be precisely heaven's way of warning us. The mystery of the fourth trumpet is not just a distant tale. It is a warning that resonates in the silence, waiting to be heard. And today, we will delve into this topic, exploring not only what Scripture says, but also how the messages of Medjugorje shed new light on this sign. Prepare yourself, because what comes next may change the way you view not only the prophecies, but the very times in which we live. Perhaps as you listen to these words, you're already remembering a moment when you felt an inner calling, as if something invisible was trying to touch your heart. It might have been a dream, a sense of urgency in the face of world events, or even that profound silence that suddenly seemed to carry a message. And it's precisely at this point that I want to invite you to participate in this reflection with me. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far, or even an experience you've had that in some way connects with this topic. Your words can awaken in others the same desire to delve deeper into spirituality. And I believe that each comment is like a seed planted. And since we're building this space together, every gesture of support is essential. When you like, YouTube understands the value of this content and brings this message to many more people who may need to hear this warning. And by subscribing to the channel, you not only ensure that you'll continue to follow these revelations and reflections, but you also become part of a community that grows every day, united by the same desire to understand the signs and strengthen faith. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, and I want you to feel part of that because you truly are. So, comment, like, and subscribe, not just as an automatic gesture, but as a way to spread this message that can touch other lives, just as it's touching yours now. After all, this is just the beginning of our journey, and what comes next will take us even deeper into this mystery that the fourth trumpet holds for all humanity. The trumpets in the book of Revelation were never described as simple musical instruments. They are living symbols charged with spiritual meaning that span time and speak directly to the human heart. Each announced sound is a call, a warning, almost like a divine cry echoing through history. When the sacred text speaks of these trumpets, it is not merely describing distant future events, but revealing a hidden truth about how God communicates with humanity, drawing our attention to that which many prefer to ignore. It is as if each trumpet were a turning point, an awakening that shakes the very foundations of life and invites a profound change of mindset. The first trumpet speaks of destruction upon the earth, reminiscent of cycles of purification, as if it were necessary to shake what is firm for something new to emerge. The second brings images of turbulent seas, symbols of collective emotions, entire nations being shaken to their foundations. The third trumpet presents us with the fall of a star called wormwood, which contaminates the waters, representing a bitter impact on what sustains us. These signs are not only literal descriptions of phenomena, but also metaphors for intense transformations the world is undergoing, both external and internal. And so we come to the fourth trumpet, which is precisely where our attention needs to be focused. The Bible tells us that a third of the sun, moon, and stars were struck, and the light ceased to shine in its fullness. Imagine the scenario. A part of creation plunged into darkness, as if time itself had been stopped. It's not just a cosmic phenomenon, but a spiritual shock, a wake-up call that spans generations. It's the kind of revelation that cannot be ignored, for it reaches not only heaven, but also the soul of every person who opens themselves to understand its meaning. These signs serve to awaken us to choices that can no longer be postponed. They remind us that life is not just a sequence of ordinary days, but a journey marked by moments of decision. It's as if God is calling us to stop, reflect, and face the truth. Are we prepared to listen when He speaks? Or do we let the noise of the world silence the trumpet that already resounds within us? The most interesting thing is that when we look at the trumpets as part of a process, we realize that each one affects a different aspect of existence. The first touches the earth, the second the seas, the third the waters, and the fourth the sky. It's as if there were a progression, a revelation that begins on the ground we walk on and rises to the heavens that cover us. This shows us that we are not faced with a fragmented message, but a complete movement involving body, mind, spirit, and creation as a whole. This idea of totality invites us to see Revelation not just as a book of catastrophes, but as a manual for preparing for decisive times. In every trumpet, there is an opportunity for transformation. It's as if heaven is reminding us that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance to awaken, to look within and realize that the invisible governs far more than meets the eye. And perhaps you've felt this in your own life. Periods when everything seemed to lose its light, when the days were marked by a heavy silence and the feeling that something greater was about to happen. It is at this point that the biblical text touches a raw nerve and at the same time opens a door of hope. The trumpets are not only signs of destruction, They are also invitations to awaken from a deep slumber and realign life with a greater purpose. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding what the fourth trumpet truly means is to come into contact with a message that speaks both to the future of the world and to the inner transformation of each person. These are not just events that shake nature, but signs that stir the human heart, revelations that force us to reevaluate our choices, our faith, and even the course of history. It's as if we're backstage at a cosmic play, where humanity itself takes center stage. The fourth trumpet shows us that the light may fade for a time, but the purpose behind this is to lead us to see the importance of what was previously neglected. When the brightness fades, it's an opportunity to perceive the essence. And when darkness arrives, it's an invitation to ignite an inner flame that doesn't depend on sun or stars. This warning is not about fear, but about awareness. It is not about destruction, but about preparation. The impact of the fourth trumpet reminds us that amidst the revelations that seem frightening, there is always a call for renewal, for reconnection with what truly matters. And somehow this message permeates not only the heavens, but also our present, as if to say, wake up, the time is now. And to make this reflection even more meaningful, I want you to actively participate with me. Comment below. This makes sense to me. I want to read your words, feel your presence on this journey, and hear how this message resonates in your heart. The fourth trumpet appears as one of the most intense and disturbing images in Revelation. Unlike the previous ones, which already shake the earth, the seas, and the waters, it touches directly the heavens, the space that has always represented a symbol of permanence and stability for humanity. The biblical text tells us that a third of the sun, moon, and stars were struck, and that the light ceased to shine as before. Imagine this scene for a moment, the day plunging into a strange gloom, as if an invisible shadow covered the sun. The night without the full brightness of the moon and stars, bringing a darkness that cannot be explained, a silence that extends like a warning. It's the kind of vision that transcends logic and stirs something deeper, the instinct to perceive that something greater is happening. This partial darkening of the sky's lights can be interpreted in many ways. For some, it is a literal sign of an extraordinary cosmic phenomenon, capable of devastatingly impacting life on Earth. For others, it is symbolic language, a metaphor for the loss of spiritual clarity, a time when humanity cannot see fully and lives in the shadows of its own choices. The impact is both physical and spiritual. It is as if God were saying, "You have walked so far trusting only in the external light. Now you must learn to see with a different perspective." This message brings not only fear, but also an opportunity for transformation, a call to awaken the consciousness that often remains dormant when the light goes out. Even partially, a restlessness arises that cannot be ignored. Anyone who has experienced a blackout in the dead of night knows how everything seems to take on a new dimension. Sounds that previously went unnoticed intensify. Every movement causes tension, and the mind fills with questions. The same is true of the fourth trumpet. It takes us out of our comfort zone, rips us from our routine, and confronts us with the hidden truth we prefer to keep hidden. It's the kind of revelation you can't watch from afar. It demands decision. It demands a change of mindset. And see how this signal has a unique power. The sun, moon, and stars are not just celestial bodies. Since ancient times, they have represented order, cycles, and security. The sun marks the time of work and life. The moon governs the tides and symbolizes mystery. The stars have always been guides for travelers and navigators. By reaching these elements, the fourth trumpet touches the deepest depths of the human journey. It destabilizes the idea of permanence and shows that even that which seemed untouchable can change. This generates surprise, but also a warning to the entire world. The message that there is nothing absolute in creation that does not depend on the Creator. This phenomenon described in Revelation is an invitation to reflect on our own inner darkness. How often do we walk amid shadows, pretending we still have clarity, when in fact we have lost our way? The fourth trumpet reminds us that the true light is not only in heaven, but within each of us, and that when the external fails, we need to awaken the inner flame. It is at this moment that spirituality ceases to be theory and becomes a living practice, capable of sustaining us on days when everything around us seems to be falling apart. The curious thing is that, even though it's a sign of darkness, the fourth trumpet doesn't speak of total destruction. It's not the end, but an interval, a shock that heralds something greater. The third that goes out suggests that there's still light, still hope, still room for decisions that can change the course of history. It's as if heaven is giving us a timely warning, a chance to realize that we can no longer live the same way. This is the real impact, not just the fear of losing the light, but the realization that we need to learn to see differently. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding this moment requires looking beyond the surface and delving into the hidden meaning behind the images. The fourth trumpet isn't just revealing a cosmic event, it's pointing to a collective state of humanity, a time when confusion, lack of direction, and spiritual blindness become evident. And it is in this context that the greatest call arises, to wake up before the darkness becomes total. When we reflect on this scene, we realize that it's not just a matter of light and shadow, but of consciousness and unconsciousness. It's like being in a theater, and suddenly the lights dim. At first, we feel discomfort, but soon our eyes begin to adjust. Some get up and look for exits, others remain still, waiting for the light to return. The apocalypse shows us that this time of darkness is also a time of choices, and each decision can determine the course of our spiritual journey. This partial darkness may well also symbolize the crises the world is experiencing. Wars, natural disasters, political divisions, social unrest. All of this serves as a mirror of the trumpets, showing that humanity lives in a kind of moral twilight. The sun, which should illuminate, becomes weak. The moon, which should reflect, seems hidden. The stars, which should guide, are extinguished. And in this scenario, each of us is challenged to discover which light to follow, the weak and unstable one that remains externally, or the inner flame that Mary and Christ himself call us to kindle. This is the essence of the warning that will surprise the world. It's not just about a grand phenomenon that everyone will see, but about an inner process that has already begun and that few perceive. The fourth trumpet is, at once, a cosmic announcement and a metaphor for the soul. It touches heaven and the human heart with equal intensity, and the impact of this touch can completely transform the way we view life, choices, and the future. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. I want to feel whoever is with me delving into this mystery and searching for the true light, even when everything around them seems to be fading away. When we consider the impact of the fourth trumpet, it's impossible to ignore how this announcement connects with something that still intrigues millions of people around the world: the apparitions of Mary in Medjugorje. Since the early 1980s, reports of the presence of the Mother of Jesus in this small Bosnian village have sparked debate, faith, and at the same time, mystery. Pilgrims from various parts of the planet claim to have experienced healings, profound conversions, and signs that defy any logical explanation. But what is most striking is that, among so many messages of peace, prayer, and conversion, there are 7 messages that remain hidden, carefully guarded by the visionaries, as if heaven itself had determined the exact moment when they will be revealed. The parallel with the biblical trumpets is inevitable. Both convey the idea of progressive warnings, of calls that intensify until something greater happens. And many believe that at some point these lines intersect. The fourth trumpet speaks of a partial darkness, of a time when the light is partially extinguished. In Medjugorje, the hidden messages also seem to point to periods of trial, where humanity will have to choose between remaining in faith or losing itself in the shadows. The coincidence doesn't seem merely symbolic. For those who study prophecy, it's a clear link, as if Mother Mary were preparing the world for the same signs that the apocalypse described centuries ago. This connection generates not only curiosity, but also a sense of urgency. Think about it. Why are some messages revealed immediately while others remain sealed? If everything were simple and obvious, there would be no need to wait for the right time. The secret, in this case, is part of the revelation. It awakens the heart, provokes reflection, and at the same time keeps humanity attentive. It's like being backstage at a great show and knowing that something is prepared, but it can't yet be revealed. This anticipation creates an impact, moves people's minds, and forces each of us to ask ourselves, am I ready to hear what's coming? There are reports that these 7 unrevealed messages are more serious, more intense, perhaps even linked to events that will change the course of history. And many believe that one of them is directly linked to the 4th trumpet, this cosmic announcement that speaks of darkness and global warning. It wouldn't be the first time that heaven has chosen a dual path to speak to humanity, Scripture as the foundation and the apparitions as living reminders that the word still pulses and is fulfilled. This duality makes everything stronger, more present, as if God were saying, I have already announced it and I continue to announce it. The fact is that Medjugorje didn't become one of the world's largest pilgrimage centers by chance. People go there because they sense something authentic, something that touches the invisible. And when we talk about these hidden messages, the feeling is that we are constantly moving toward a revelation that could surprise not only the faithful, but the entire world. It's as if we were standing before a cosmic clock that continues to count down the minutes until the moment these secrets will finally be revealed. What if one of them brings the very confirmation of what the 4th trumpet had already announced? Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because it's not just a crossover of prophecies, but a dialogue between heaven and earth that challenges any attempt to ignore the spiritual. If the trumpet already described a world in darkness, Medjugorje seems to reinforce this scenario, reminding us that the darkness will not only be physical, but also moral and spiritual. And when we place these two sources side by side, Scripture and the apparitions, we realize that this is no coincidence, but an insistent call, a plea for mercy that spans centuries and reaches us today. This bridge between biblical revelations and Mary's messages allows us to see the journey differently. Suddenly, we're not just talking about distant symbols, but about warnings that continue to unfold before our eyes. This changes our mindset, generates an inner transformation, and prompts decisions that can no longer be postponed. After all, if heaven has already given us clear clues that difficult times are coming, why continue living as if nothing is happening? The most impressive thing is that this expectation generates not only fear, but also hope. Because in all the apparitions, even in the face of the strongest warnings, Mary always speaks of conversion, prayer, and love. It's as if the trumpet announces a shock, but the mother's voice indicates the way out. This combination of revelations doesn't leave us lost. On the contrary, it reminds us that there is still time to change, to prepare to rekindle our faith. Comment below. This makes sense to me. I want to see who is connecting these dots with me and recognizing that there is a hidden truth being revealed little by little before our eyes when we consider the impact of the trumpets and the mystery of the Medjugorje messages. It is impossible not to feel the gentle yet firm presence of Mary, a voice insistently awakening us. Her tone is never one of cold condemnation or empty threat. On the contrary, it always comes with the tenderness of a mother who sees dangers before her children and tries in every way to warn, protect, and guide. Mother Mary's warning is not meant to paralyze us with fear, but to lead us to a life change that can only come from the heart. It is as if the trumpet were resounding in the heavens, And Mary's voice translated that sound into words of caution. Turn to prayer, to love, to reconciliation with God. This urgent call appears in every apparition, in every message. When Mary speaks of conversion, it's not just about changing small habits, but about a profound transformation of mindset, about exchanging haste and distraction for the silence of prayer that rebuilds the inner self. It's an invitation for each person to look at their own journey more seriously, to understand that today's decisions echo in the future, and that we can no longer live as if life were infinite. The trumpet announces the urgency, and Mary shows the way through this time. Understand how everything connects. The trumpet speaks of darkness, of lights that are extinguished. Mary, in turn, speaks of the need to rekindle the inner flame, because she knows that humanity will experience moments of confusion. She insists that prayer is the shield, that faith is the strength, and that love is the answer. It's not a speech of fear, but of preparation. She doesn't want people to live in terror, but in vigilance. There's a big difference. Fear paralyzes, but awakened consciousness has an impact, moves us, reminds us that there is still time to choose, and if you stop and think about it, you'll realize that her messages were never simply a religious appeal. They are practical guidance for spiritual survival. She speaks of the need to fast, to pray the rosary, to be at peace with others. These practices, which seem simple, are actually powerful tools of resistance in a world increasingly immersed in conflict, division, and hustle and bustle. It's not just praying for the sake of praying, but creating a mindset capable of resisting chaos. It's as if she were giving us secret instructions from behind the scenes of a great spiritual drama already underway. Many interpret these warnings as harsh, but it's impossible not to feel the compassion that overflows from them. Mary speaks as if she can't bear the thought of seeing her children lost. And this hidden truth, hidden between the lines of each message, is that her maternal heart cannot give up on humanity. She knows that many won't listen, that others will mock, but she never stops repeating, "Convert, change your lives, prepare yourselves." The impact of this is profound because it shows that there is still time, there is still room to begin again. If the fourth trumpet represents a world in shadows, Mary's warning is the assurance that we need not go through this night alone. She stands as a guide, a light in the midst of darkness. And this urgent call is not just for large crowds, but for each person personally. It is within ourselves that this voice resonates most strongly, in moments of silence, when conscience awakens and we can no longer pretend not to hear. It is then that the revelations touch deeply and force us to face our own choices. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this call isn't just distant spiritual guidance, but a direct invitation to transform attitudes, break patterns of indifference, and take concrete steps toward a different life. When Mary speaks of prayer, she's asking for more than just repeated words. She's asking for presence, surrender, and true connection. And when she speaks of life change, she's pointing to a path of healing, of liberation, of rebuilding what seemed lost. It's as if we're facing a maternal warning that, while shaking, also consoles. There's urgency, yes, but there's also hope. It's not the end of the journey, but the awakening to a new beginning. The trumpet awakens the world, but the mother's voice calls each heart by name. And it's in this combination that lies the key to understanding what's truly at stake. Right there, I'm on this journey too. I want to feel who is sincerely hearing this call and recognizing that there is an urgency for transformation knocking at the door of their hearts. What may truly surprise the world in the face of the fourth trumpet is the unpredictability of how this warning will manifest. Scripture leaves us with powerful images, but it doesn't give us specific details, and it is precisely in this space of mystery that the hypotheses that disturb the human heart arise. Many believe it will be a natural phenomenon of unimaginable proportions, something like an extraordinary eclipse, a series of solar flares. or even a cosmic impact that would radically change the planet's equilibrium. If the sun lost part of its light, for example, the global climate would collapse, crops would be affected, and the routine of all humanity would need to adapt to a new reality. The mere imagining of this already makes us realize the fragility of our existence. But some argue that the sign will be more than physical. It will be spiritual, an inner erasure, a kind of collective dark night. Imagine millions of people simultaneously feeling a lack of meaning, a void that no technology, money, or achievement can fill. A spiritual transformation that affects not only believers, but all of humanity, making it clear that this is not an individual choice, but a universal movement. It would be a silent but devastating impact, capable of shaking the collective mind and exposing the hidden truths that many prefer to hide. And there is still a third hypothesis, perhaps the most discussed, that we will see a visible sign in the heavens, something no eye can deny. It could be an unusual darkness covering part of the sky, or even a luminous phenomenon that would divide opinions between science and faith. It wouldn't be the first time a celestial event has defied human understanding. The difference is that this one would have a global reach, not restricted to one people or region, but perceptible to all, as if the sky itself had become the stage for an indisputable revelation. Regardless of the form, one thing is certain: the impact will be global. There will be no hiding or pretending nothing is happening. This is the connecting thread between all interpretations. The entire world, across cultures and languages, will be confronted with a sign that challenges the most basic certainties. And this is precisely where the warning comes in. Whether it's natural, spiritual, or supernatural, the fourth trumpet's function is the same: to awaken humanity. It will affect the collective, but also the innermost, because each person will be forced to reflect on their own condition, their decisions, and the direction they have taken in their lives. And perhaps what's most surprising isn't just the phenomenon itself, but how each person will react. For some, it will be fear. For others, hope. For many, a shock that will reveal the hidden truth that the time for indecision is over. It's this contrast of emotions that reveals the trumpet's power. It doesn't choose a reaction, but forces a decision. And that in itself is a greater impact than any cosmic event. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding what might surprise the world also means understanding how history is already moving behind the scenes. If Mary's messages and the signs described in Revelation go hand in hand, then what will come will not just be a heavenly spectacle, but an opportunity for transformation that no one can ignore. Comment below. That makes sense to me. I'd love to see who's following this line of reasoning and recognizing that, whatever form it takes, the impact of the fourth trumpet will touch every corner of humanity. If there's one thing the trumpets make clear, it's that they aren't just signs of judgment, but invitations to awaken. And it's precisely at this point that the call to preparation comes in. There's no point in simply fearing or being impressed by the signs, because their true purpose is to move humanity toward inner transformation. Mary, in Medjugorje and in so many other apparitions, always reinforces the same truth. Preparation begins within each heart, in the silence of prayer, in the constant practice of faith, and in the ability to be attentive to the signs heaven sends us. This preparation is not a distant theory, but a daily practice that strengthens the spirit and enables us to navigate times of uncertainty without losing our bearings. Prayer, for example, is not just repeating words, but creating a space for encounter. It is in this space that the mind calms and the soul finds clarity. It's like a kind of invisible training to endure the moments when the external light goes out. When we pray, we ignite an inner flame that sustains us, even in the face of the greatest darkness. This spiritual discipline reminds us that control is not in our hands, but that there is always a safe haven when we trust. And this is precisely what the trumpet wants to awaken. Not despair, but the awareness that there is still time to choose another path. Practicing faith is also essential. And practicing faith doesn't just mean silently believing, but living according to what you believe. It means forgiving when it seems impossible, being fair in small decisions, choosing the good even when no one is looking. It's in these seemingly simple gestures that true preparation happens. Because deep down, each choice is like a brick placed in the construction of a spiritual fortress. And when the day of darkness arrives, it will be this fortress that will sustain those who have learned to prepare. Another fundamental point is vigilance. Being attentive to signs doesn't mean living obsessively, but rather cultivating an awakened mindset. It's about perceiving how worldly events reflect what has already been announced, but also how small everyday signs can be messages from heaven. Sometimes a dream, an intuition, an unexpected word can carry more revelations than we imagine. Those who live distracted miss these signs, but those who are attentive can see behind the scenes of life the silent movement that points to something greater. This preparation, in practice, is much more than protecting yourself from what is to come. It's opening yourself to a process of transformation that begins now. Because when the trumpet sounds, it's not just about external catastrophes, but also about internal changes. It's a wake-up call, a call to abandon indifference and take responsibility for living with purpose. Every prayer, every act of faith, every attention paid to the signs is like an exercise that prepares us for more difficult days, but also strengthens us to live more meaningfully in the present. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the invitation to prepare is not just a spiritual call, but a reminder that life is a journey of choices. Every day we are faced with decisions that shape our destiny. We can choose the path of indifference or the path of awareness. We can ignore the warnings or embrace them as opportunities for awakening. And that is precisely what the trumpets represent. Not just a reminder that something is coming, but the opportunity to transform who we are before it is too late. This is the beauty of the call. It isn't limited to fear of the future, but points to the hope of a renewed present. Because in the end, true preparation isn't about accumulating ready-made answers, but about cultivating an open mindset, ready to respond with faith, courage, and love, whatever the challenge. The trumpet echoes in the heavens, but its reverberation occurs within each person who chooses to listen. Right there, I'm on this journey too. I want to see who understands that preparation isn't just waiting for something distant, but living in the now with the awareness that every step counts on this great spiritual journey. The fourth trumpet echoes like a sound that cannot be ignored, spanning the centuries and reaching us with the same force it had when described in the book of Revelation. It speaks not merely of a phenomenon in the sky, but of a profound movement that touches the soul and questions our certainties. The shaking of the sun, moon, and stars is not merely a grandiose image. It is a symbol of what we believe to be stable, but which can be shaken at any moment. This trumpet is a powerful warning that time is not infinite, and that humanity must awaken to the hidden truth that insists on revealing itself. And it is precisely here that Mother Mary's call takes on even stronger meaning. In the apparitions of Medjugorje, as in so many others, she never ceased to speak of the urgency of conversion, the need for prayer, and the importance of not being deceived by the illusions of a world that promises security but can guarantee nothing. She speaks as a mother, and a mother's heart does not remain silent in the face of the danger threatening her children. Her tone is firm, yet filled with love, because each warning is, at the same time, an opportunity for change. The trumpet awakens the world. But Mary's voice translates this awakening into practical actions. Pray, fast, reconcile, live in truth. She knows that times of darkness require more than fine words. They require real transformation, concrete decisions that shape destiny. Therefore, her mission is to insist, repeat, call again, until hearts understand that these are not just distant prophecies, but choices that must be made now. This is the most profound impact, realizing that there is still time, but that this time cannot be wasted. When the fourth trumpet sounds, it doesn't just reach the visible heavens. It stirs the invisible, the conscience, the depths of each person. And Mary, in her mission as a mother, continues to extend her hands to guide those who choose to listen. It's not a call to fear, but to courage. It's not an invitation to hide, but to rise up. It's the certainty that even amidst the shadows, there is a path of light prepared for all those who wish to see beyond appearances. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the power of this warning is also recognizing that it came not to destroy, but to save. The sound of the trumpet is harsh, but it is also a proof of mercy. It is heaven saying, there is still time. And it is Mary reinforcing this same message with the gentleness of one who loves and the firmness of one who knows she can wait no longer. This is the time to awaken, to listen, to prepare, because the echoing sound cannot be ignored, and every heart that hears it is called to respond with new life. Comment below. That makes sense to me. I want to know who is truly realizing that this warning is not just a distant prophecy, but a living call that resonates in the present. If you've made it this far, it's because this message truly spoke to you in some way. And that's exactly why I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next reflections, because each new video is an opportunity to delve deeper into these mysteries and bring meaning to the times we live in. Also, leave your like, because it's through this simple gesture that I know this content made a difference and that we're creating a true connection here. And since you stayed until the end, write in the comments, I'm with you until the end. I'd love to hear from anyone who's walked with me this far. And if you want to continue delving into this topic, there's a video here that complements what we discussed today. Click and follow me there.